full screen. There's 4 financial statements. We're going to really hone in on 3 of them. But my personal finance class, is it just Dana in that class? And Sydney? What did Jeannie show us yesterday? School's budget and, remember the one with the yellow all over it? The cash flow statement. You know, so she uses one of those. And a lot of people do in the finance world. Income statement basically shows money in minus money out. Oh, hopefully to yield a net income. What's going to yield a net income when revenue is greater than what? Or when we make more money than we spent? A net loss would, of course, be reversed. You see a lot of things being indented. Am I going to get so worried about that in the test? No, but it does show a little bit more rhyme and reason to what's going on. What are these single rules for right here? Math above. When we're all done with math, we double rule below. Yesterday I went through this very quickly, but let's talk through it. Why is owner's equity 0 at the beginning? Or excuse me, the owner's capital. Had the business even started yet? No. In the problem we do today, there is a balance because the owner's capital wouldn't always start with 0. It's only going to be 0 the day that we first open our business. Usually that balance rolls through. We're going to add a couple things and we're going to subtract a couple things. Basically, this is the expanded accounting equation. Except things are kind of masked. I see plus investments, but I see plus net income. What 2 things are hiding there in net income from the owner's equity umbrella? Revenue in and expenses out. Then we can say less drawings to figure out what our actual worth is. Why do we see August 1st to August 31st? Because this is for the month ended. What if it would have said the year? What if it would have said for year ended? Owner's capital would have been January 1. At the bottom, owner's capital would have been December 31st. Okay. Typically, what we do in this accounting book will be a month fiscal period. A month fiscal period would be a disaster in the accounting world, but it just tries to shorten it up so you can see it a little bit better. Typically, a fiscal period will last a full year. What can I answer about this? We did this fast. I think putting it into practice is going to make it sink in. Would you agree? All right, let's do the balance sheet. Balance statement. Balance sheet. Getting everything mixed up here. 15,550. Circle that or highlight that number. We are going to use that number on the balance sheet. That's going to come down here eventually. To me, the balance sheet seems easier than the rest of them because it's one of the first things the book teaches you. ALO, assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. The book has had it more horizontal. This has it laid out vertically. Does it have the word assets on a line for you? Okay. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to just put all those headings in with the supplemental accounts. Then we're going to take a highlighter out and we're actually going to mark the little pairs or the duos together. So why don't you get those in? I'll kick it over a little bit more so you can see it. I'm still tickled how much money you guys raised. Thank you. Where would we be getting all of these from? Cash, AR, supplies, equipment, the accounts payable, and the owner's capital. Remember we had all those accounts listed in that big transaction thing that I actually had you write in the book with? You remember that yesterday? That's where we got all those. That's how you'd know what's what. Why don't we see revenue or any of the expenses listed here? Which home does that belong to? Where are the revenue and expenses listed? Income statement. Thank you, Anna. But then why are we seeing owners stuff on here? Well, it all kind of relates. The owner's equity actually tells the income statement story, doesn't it? Because that 15,550 that we're about to put in there shows up there. As Ira's typing, I just realized I haven't connected to your computers. I want you to have it right in front of you. Is it there? Morgan, you have yours today, but Ashley doesn't. Oof. Let's try it one more time. Nothing. I'll try to stay out of the way. Okay. Right now, if you want to get a highlighter out, great. Or if you just want to circle things and draw arrows to others, okay? I see the word assets. We list all the accounts, but then I see total assets down there. I'm going to switch up pen colors. I see a heading that reads liabilities and owner's equity. I also see it saying total liabilities and owner's equity. So do you see how those little duos kind of travel with each other? I oftentimes will see students blank out on a test in this area because they see liabilities and owner's equity as little subheadings. Those are little subheadings, but it's not like they need their own little total right there. We're going to total both of them together because remember the basic accounting equation. Assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. It's just a vertical version of it. Where are we going to get the numbers for these? Do you remember? In that book where you wrote those totals, okay? How dare we write in a $300 book? That's not ours. Oh well, it'll be a gift to the next set of classes. Cash. I would put this amount right here. You only have one column on your balance sheet. Isn't that kind of refreshing? You don't have to know where the numbers go. Okay. I don't know why my answer key shoved that over, but please leave it vertically linear there. Why is there a line under 5,000? Why is there a line under 5,000? Single rule. I'm glad Morgan used that accounting term. The line tells me that there's what above? Math. If you even want to put a very old school little plus sign in there to show that that line means math, go for it. Why can I double rule at this point under the 17,550? Why can I do that? Because remember this, assets equal. It basically is that stopping point. It's like the equal sign there. What are we going to put for liabilities? Someone that has their book open. How many accounts payables do we have? We have one. It's called accounts payable. And the problem today, you're going to see a couple different payables. But what's the balance? How much do we owe? $2,000. Is Ms. Salvi right? Yes, she is. But why aren't we totaling that? Why aren't we totaling it like what we did with, we did total assets. Why aren't we totaling liabilities? Go back to the accounting equation. Are we done with the math on that side of the accounting equation? We're not. Because then we're going to put in owner's equity, which is masked as owner's capital. We know that's a pretty loaded number though. That number, I think a lot of people would put down 15,000 because that's what capital said. But we know that the owner invested. We know that the owner got to keep the net income, which we know is also revenue minus expenses. And we also know that the owner was slightly greedy or slightly decided to pay himself with drawings. So that is that's the expanded accounting equation. I'm going to add my liabilities plus my owner's equity, single rule, double rule. Sorry, that got very messy for me. And miraculously, it's the same number as the assets. Well, that's not so miraculous because assets need to equal liabilities plus owner's equity. This is where the accountants get kind of almost tearful because all their numbers worked out. Do you think you could do that on a test if I had boxes and lines and some of the headings in? You could. It's really not much math at all, is it? It's just moving numbers and account titles. I'm going to hit pause. I'm going to show you the whole problem. Okay, dizzy, right? Do you see where my green highlighter is? I would highlight that in your workbook just to make, draw the line in the sand. We have our assets, our liabilities, and owner's equity. Okay. I don't know what line that is on your page, but I think just seeing it here helps. Then the next thing I want us to do, this is setting you up. This format is exactly like what you're going to have on the test. I forget which one of you asked this question midweek, but as we worked through the transactions, one of you asked, would you ever update the balances as you go? Was that you, Sydney? It might have been Ira. I'm not sure who asked, but in this, you're going to, every transaction you're going to do on a line, and then you're going to update your balances as you go. Do you see on line 1 where it says BAL for balance? Can you highlight that little line 1 in balance? So just, if you look at mine, I've got little snippets. See that left margin? Okay. I wish they would have put balance on every line. They didn't, but we're going to. It's going to seem a little bit redundant, but I think it's going to help you. Do you see where line 2 has a number 1? Don't highlight that. Go to line 3. In that little space, write the word balance and highlight. Don't get ahead of me because they skip a couple lines on one of them. Go to line 5. Write balance. Do a little highlight mark. I'm just setting you up for success here versus trying. Line 7, balance. Line 9, balance. Again, don't get ahead of me at this point. Skip all the way down to line 13, balance. Line 15, balance. 17 and 19 can both be balance. Line 20 will have nothing in it. So we're going to do a transaction, update the balances. Do a transaction, update the balances. What's going to make your life easier when you get to the bottom? The balances are going to be there. Why do we want to know the balances? What do we need to know balances for? To make our 3 financial statements, communicating that money story. I already know we're not going to do that until Monday. Okay. I want you to put in the totals, not the very bottom totals, but ALLO is going to equal 16,800 on this. So at the end, when we do all the numbers and we take ALLO, all of our assets equaling all of our liabilities plus owner's equity, that magic number is 16,800 that we're trying to get to. A lot of times they'll give you numbers like that so you can know if you did your math right or not. That's the kind of stuff that I'm going to send on Remind. When you do the problem, your ALLO number should be, do you guys know what I mean when I say the ALLO number now? It's that 16.8 on either side. All right. Are all of the balances in there for you? Right? Do you have all the balances in? Okay, let's analyze for just a minute. We're doing okay with assets, aren't we? We've got a pretty healthy asset lineup. We're worth $8,800. So this business isn't new. They're telling us you're coming into the month with $8,800 worth of worth. Why though, when we have so many assets, are we only worth $8,800? Because what else is lurking? Accounts payable. I like that. That's good. What does that mean? Account payable is we owe money. Okay, so let's start cranking through this. I want to get through these. We might dip a little bit past that 9 o'clock mark, but that's okay. I'm looking on page 40. Transaction 1. We collected $1,200 of accounts receivable. If we collect blank from someone that owes us money, what are they giving us? Cash. So we're going to see a plus $1,200 in cash and a minus $1,200 in AR. Whoa, an asset's going down? Is that a bad thing? Normally, yes. But in this case, some person that we allowed to charge walked out with stuff that we sold them, and there's a $1,500. We're going to do minus $1,200 for that because they're paying part of their bill. Ira had a question, and then Sydney. That's a good. Is that what you were going to ask too, Sydney? I was just putting them out where that dollar sign is, just because I didn't know if it would be 1,000 or 100. Yeah. Do you see where that dollar sign is on all of them? I'd put it out in that little section. We're not going to need 100,000 plus. Okay. Now here's kind of the annoying part. All the way across, you need to update your balances. So 5,000 minus 1,200, 1,500 minus 1,200. Those are the hard ones. The rest of them, you're just going to dip them down. Check out what happened on the balance line. We are now up to $6,200 worth of cash, and we're down to only $300 of owing. But then all you do is just skip a line and bring down the other totals. So do you see how updating the balances work? If you really wanted to get crazy, if you will, you could highlight all the way across on that balance line. Because that's where I got kind of off on my lines yesterday. Could you see how that could happen pretty easy? So if you want to take your highlighter and go all the way across on that line, what are we on? Line 3? You're welcome to. Do you see what's going to happen now? Transaction, update balance. Transaction, update balance. You will see this kind of format on the test. Paid. Whoa, easy. What happened to cash if we paid something? It went, okay. We paid $2,800 cash on accounts payable. It's basically the exact opposite transaction that just happened. In transaction 1, someone that owed us paid. In transaction 2, someone that we owed paid. So you're going to see cash go down, and you're also going to see accounts payable go down. Shame on us. We did not pay our whole bill, but we got a big chunk of it gone. Pause to do what before we go on to the next transaction? Update balances. You are welcome to peek at the answers when I'm doing this, because I know you can do the math. It's just a simple punch into the calculator, okay? So if you're feeling like I'm just looking at Mrs. Mars's answers, Believe me, you'll get to do this on your own at the end of problem B set. You'll be on your own for the test. So you can practice your math skills then. Here are your totals. Why am I bringing 300 down and 500 down and 6,000 down and the 8,800? Because those balances remained unchanged and we're just bringing them down. Morgan. You wouldn't need to, no. You see single rules pop in anytime there's math involved. You wouldn't need to. This is not a formal financial statement. This is more of like the duck paddling under the water, doing all the work. Pretty soon, we're going to make a financial statement out of the deal. Good question, though. Transaction 3. Whoa. I'm seeing two different numbers already. Can you tell that this is going to be a little bit more of an elaborate transaction? We purchased equipment for $2,000. No, I'm on the wrong one. Recognized revenue. I see the word revenue. What's going to happen in OE? Is it going to go up or down somewhere? Up. When we recognize revenue, we sold something or we performed some kind of service. Okay. So we recognized revenue of $7,500, of which $300 is collected in cash and the balance is due later. What's happening in revenue? Plus $7,500 in revenue. We have a plus $3,000 in cash because they only paid part of their bill. The tricky part there is there's actually a third number. They just said the balance is due in September. Well, I know if I sold $7,500 worth of stuff, but got $3,000 in cash, $7,500 minus $3,000 is $4,500. Update your balances. I have to remember to slow down because I'm not having to write numbers. Believe me, you're thankful I'm not writing the numbers because I'm trying to write fast and then you can't read them. A computer-generated version of this is so much easier to read. And don't you love having it in front of you? Except for Ashley and Nicole. Anyone else not connect? Transaction 4. Purchased additional equipment. We paid some of it in cash, but then we also charged the rest of the balance. How many assets are impacted here? If we bought equipment, paid cash for it, but put some on account. How many assets? In those three little spots, you have at least 2. Okay, so you are gaining a plus $2,000 in equipment, minus a little chunk that we paid in cash. But why do we go to the other side of the accounting equation to put the plus $1,600? Do we owe or does someone owe us for that equipment? We owe. It's a liability or it's a payable. It's a payable that we have to pay. I'm going to show the balances. Again, it gets a little bit repetitive, but you'll appreciate it at the end when all the balances are right there for you. We're half done. I know it's 9 o'clock, but I'm just going to keep going, okay? Can you tell that 5 is long? What do you think? Just even with, yeah, I was just going to say, just not even looking at the transaction, what do you think we're paying here? We're paying all of our expenses, okay? So let's see what it says. Paid salaries, rent, and advertising. I see the word paid, so that tells me cash down. But then we also have these 3 expenses going down, okay? You saw during the lecture, they listed each of the cash singly. you know, it would have said minus 25, minus 9, minus 4. Okay. In this one, they chose to do it as a lump minus cash and then the 3 minus expenses singly. On a test, I'd be okay with either. You know, minus 3,800 or minus 25 minus 9 minus 4. Either way, it's fine. Now, if you want to list which expense they're going to, that's okay. Here's salaries, rent, and advertising. You can do that if you want, but if you're like, oh, who cares, whatever. I think sometimes it's nice to see those there, though. Update balances. Are you bored yet? Remember, I like bored because that means you get it. Can you tell it's tedious, busy work? If you're not into tedious, busy work, accounting isn't for you. All right. Withdrew. What's another word for that under the owner's equity umbrella? What's another word for withdrew? Drawing. Withdrew $700 in cash for personal use. I see another word, cash. Can the owner do that? Sure he can. Cash is going to go down, but so is drawing. Now, Ira, do you have a question up here still? Okay. Yes. I saw you looking at that. I knew this was coming, so I had that in my mind, but yeah, expenses. You got to remember up here, these balances were 0. So 0 minus 700 is minus 700. 0 minus 3,800 is negative 3,800. Because basically, how are they playing into this? These are negative because they offset the positive balances of money in. So yes, these will run negative balances because they're offsetting the positives of owner's equity. Because when we get down here, we're going to say 8,800 minus 700 plus whatever's there minus the expenses. So you'll run negative balances, yes. Because it's how it affects the expanded accounting equation. Thank you for asking that. I knew I was waiting for drawings, and for whatever reason, I decided to skip telling you about that during the expenses. What's going on in number 7? We're getting money. We're getting $2,000 worth of money, but from who? A bank. A bank's giving us money. Well, what happens when you go get a car loan? The bank's going to give you money to buy the car. Or for whatever reason, taking a loan out at a bank. If a bank gives us money, do we owe them money back? But that's a pretty big chunk. Do you think we're going to pay off $2,000 in a month? No. Which column is it going to go under? Hint, it's the one we haven't used. It's a notes payable because the length. A loan of a lot of value, especially from a bank, is probably more of a long-term debt. I mean, you're not going to pay your car off in a month, are you? You might pay off the $250 you owe to the newspaper, but you're not going to pay off a car. So notes payable, if you remember when I talked about that during the chapter, notes payable is more of a long-term IOU. Accounts payable is quicker, like you're going to pay it off for sure in a year. So we're getting money, but now we owe a bank. Update your balances. Last one, we made it. Incurred utility expenses per month. Did we pay cash for them though? incurred utility expenses for the month on account. When we owe someone money, is it an AR or an AP? AP. So you're going to see the expense go down for you, the utility, but you're also going to see accounts payable go up because we owe on that. It happened, but now we owe on it. The reason we can get by with a plus and a minus in the same transaction is because it's exclusively on one side of ALBO. You, my friends, are well on your way to understanding accounting because I don't see fear. I don't see sadness. You're just trudging through it, and your body language tells me you understand this. These transactions were worded kind of funny. They weren't your run-of-the-mill paid cash for supplies. Supplies went up, cash went down. You had to think about them a little bit. I'm impressed. A week from now, you're going to be just, give me this test, let's do it. You're going to update your balances, and if you shook out all the math there, you added, you added and subtract where you needed to, it would equal 16,800. And as Ira asked, and I think Sydney was going to maybe ask the same thing, you see some negatives here. You see a minus 700 and you see a minus 4,700 because those things offset the owner's capital overall worth, because he does not get to keep his drawings and he does not need to keep the expenses. They offset the pluses. Can you see where that'd be a common mistake, where you'd leave them as pluses and then your 16,800 wouldn't shake out? What do you think you're going to have as homework? The same thing in the B set, okay? We don't have time right now to do the income statement, balance sheet, or owner's equity statement. Okay, I want to do those with you. I owe that to you. This is new. I do want you in the B set over the weekend to do this version, okay? I want you to do the Peter Nimmer veterinarian problem 1-2 B. We just did problem 1-2 A together. Now put that into practice and just do that part over the weekend. When you arrive, now we're getting our game plan in, and I'm going to keep still record. I'm going to record this so you can revisit it if you need to. We have a whole nother component left to do with the A. We'll do that in class on Monday. You'll do your homework in class on Monday as well. Okay, so instead of giving you all of this as homework, you just have to do this as homework. All right? You're going to want your numbers to shake out because you're going to use those numbers to then complete your I'm giving you in-class homework. After we get done doing the financial statements for this Sue Kojima, we're going to do these together. You'll have this done because this is your homework. Once I do our in-class stuff, you'll have in-class homework to put it into practice. Cool? The other thing you're going to get on Monday is your practice test. That will be your Monday night homework. I think at this point I should get back onto my district webpage to show you more of that story. Actually, just the transaction thing, transaction balance for that veterinarian clinic, 1-2B. Yep. Let's talk about a few things here. Oops, not Tiger Draft. I'll update this. How about I'll update it right now so you can see it live. So again, I'm sorry about the video not working yesterday. I just said the lecture didn't record correctly. Okay, so in class today, we did 1-2A, problem 1-2A, but we only did the transactions. Oh man. We only did transactions. So your homework will be only the transactions. Okay. Then in class, yeah, we're going to review problem B, but we're also going to do problem A and B, the financial statements. So do you see how that works? You then will get the practice test at the end of class on Monday to do over the evening on Monday, and then that's when we'll review it the next day. We will go through problem by problem. It's really great because then you can take notes on things and then have that as one more additional study tool that you will then study for the rest of the week. I'm also going to give you some study tips, like how to actually use those notes that you took you 2-3 hours last weekend to do, how you'll use those and all of my handouts and all of the problems and all of the practice test material, how you'll use those to study, because you have a whole day to study, sort of. UMM is coming back that day to get you logged into their system. They'll be back. Remember, I will be gone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I will be thinking of you, and I know you'll be doing well. Sydney. Nope. You never have, after a test, I always let you have a freebie weekend from accounting. Yep, good question. No, we'll start you'll always get a little bit of note-taking reading time in class because I like to preview the chapter. I like to tell you exactly how many sections. I like to kind of give you a little bit of background on the chapter before you do it. Yep, good question. So again, I'll say it one more time. Today we only got through the transaction side. I only expect you to do transactions for homework. We'll do the financial statements together for the Stu Kojima. You'll roll right into financial statements on your own. And if you don't get them done, you'll be okay.